but the goal is the same: to not have people be put in jail because they have an addiction, to help people that are in prison reenter society and not recidivate, to be able to thrive in life. That's how we help society, by preventing people from going to jail. When you transition back home, you have the tools that you need to thrive and be successful and live a healthy and productive life. People can change. Oftentimes, a person, when they're coming out of incarceration, they'll say, I'm ready to embark on this new life. And everywhere they turn, the ghosts of decisions past haunt them. The mission of Pioneer is to provide a chance for change. A chance for change often is stability, housing, treatment, and employment, if that's appropriate for them. And those three things we've been offering really since 1963, where our founder, Jack Dalton, started with basically a halfway house and a vision.
I was a high school dropout, never held a job, was a young father who couldn't be with his kids due to a lifelong drug addiction and multiple incarcerations in prison. Never managed to stay really 30 days out of jail. This time coming out of prison, I decided I needed to make a change. So I enrolled in school, really pushed for Pioneer as my place to be, because it gave me a sense of privacy and clean and sober environment and case management, and offered counseling and all these different tools that I'd never had before.
When you come out of drug rehab or alcohol rehabilitation or even prison, and the outside world isn't too accustomed to being helpful for you, Pioneer is an opportunity for you to get a place to stay, keep your sobriety in order, get a job. It offers opportunities, endless opportunities for people if you really want it.
Did you know that the US government spends over $80 billion on public prisons and jails every year? Today you're going to learn about a social enterprise that helps people re-entering society from prison and jail, as well as those overcoming substance abuse and mental health issues. Welcome to the Inspired Money Podcast, where we explore positive money stories. I'm Andy, your host and financial advisor at Runnymede Capital Management. Together, let's shift our perspectives on money so we can make more and give more to make a bigger impact in the world. Thanks for watching the Inspired Money channel that features interviews and money tips. If you want to do better with your money, hit like right now. Let's get started. We're talking with Karen Lee. She's CEO of Pioneer Human Services, one of the nation's largest nonprofit social enterprise organizations in the United States. Headquartered in Seattle, Pioneer is a true inspired money story. Under Karen's leadership, Pioneer successfully operates several revenue-generating businesses that employ people who have been involved in the legal system. The job creation here is significant, and it's a big part of the story, but there's more. The profits of those businesses support the nonprofit, so Pioneer can provide programs like diversion, treatment, housing, and job training. In this episode, you'll learn about the dismal employment outcomes people with records generally face and how they can be helped. Pioneer's results are really impressive. 96% had no new arrests, the financial challenges of those re-entering the community after prison or jail, and why housing plays such an important role to a successful re-entry. Now let's get inspired with Karen Lee. Karen, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I am glad to be here.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
My earliest memory is going with some of my friends and trying to find the end of the rainbow when I was 4 and 5, and just not ever catching up to the end of the rainbow. But we were certain that there was a pot of gold there. So that is my earliest memory.
Yeah, I noticed I don't see rainbows often enough, but when I do, it's a moving target. It keeps shifting.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I learned when I was a kid. But it was a fun day. It was beautiful. We were living in Texas. It was sunny and warm, and we just ran all over that hill.
Sounds like good memories.
Yes.
Karen, I saw that you're a West Point graduate with a University of Washington law degree.
Yes.
How is it that you ended up as CEO of Pioneer Human Services, one of the nation's largest social enterprises?
It's been a great career journey. I've always wanted to help people, and every successive job I have is just, enabled me to live that dream. When I was in the military, and even when I was younger, I suffered from discrimination. I was born during the civil rights movement, so I've certainly witnessed my share of discrimination. Just because I'm a black woman, and then when I was in the army, I was also a female in a male-dominated environment. So, um, I've just seen a lot of race-related and gender bias, and and I wanted life to be more fair. I wanted to be able to do all the things that men could do, and I wanted to be treated fairly because of my race. And so that morphed into going to law school. And I initially thought I wanted to be a civil rights attorney. But after I practiced law for a couple years, I realized that it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of individual work. It's a lot of um, researching, and it's not quite like how it's portrayed on TV. I mean, it's just a lot of time in your office, just really working hard, um, and I don't mind working hard, but I wanted to work with people more directly and work with them on their life's trajectory, not just win a case that they may or may not feel the benefit of it for years to come. So, you know, um, I decided I wanted to work with people. I transitioned from law practice to a middle management career, which really helped me. I studied business when I was at the University of Washington, so I had exposure to what makes companies tick, and I really learned a lot, enjoyed myself when I was at Puget Sound Energy, which in Washington is our investor-owned utility. And um, from there, and that's when I really learned how to manage a P&L, a profit and loss statement. And then I went and worked for our state as our state's labor commissioner. We call that in our state the Employment and Security Department. And that's when I started to see the numbers. Before, I just knew that there was inequity, but when I was in that role, the labor economists send their reports up monthly, and I would read them, and I just saw the income inequity for Black Americans and migrant farm workers in Washington, um, who are predominantly Mexican or Mexican American. Those two groups in our state have significantly lower standards of living than everyone else, I and so I just started to really try to make change in those two areas with whatever tools that we could use. And then from there, of course, I came to Pioneer Human Services, where our mission is to help people that have been involved in the criminal legal system to to live a healthy and productive life. And we work on that through our organization as a social enterprise, which I'm sure we'll talk about, through the services that we deliver, and also through our advocacy. So, yeah.
Growing up in Texas, did you encounter discrimination too as a child, or was that something later on when you were working and in the army?
Oh no, my parents were in the military. My dad was an officer, my mom a teacher. So we moved around about every 2 years. But I remember discrimination from an early age, probably 5 years old or so. When we lived in Texas, I can recall taking a trip, and my parents, and I must have been 5 years old. So this would have been 1969. And my parents actually had the green book that people write movies about, where you can stop, and the only hotels that we could stay at were Howard Johnson at the time. We were a black family, and we had to be, and you could only go to the bathroom in certain locations, or you'd have to go by the side of the road. So I still remember making those trips like that.
Wow. I can see why you would, throughout your life, really be focused on equity in being able to work as a female and as a black female and truly believing that you deserve to be working a job just like anybody else, and that there shouldn't be those massive differences. Now, Pioneer Human Services was founded in 1963, I think. Can you share a
Yes,
little bit about the history?
absolutely. It was founded right before I was born by a attorney who was convicted and sentenced for embezzling his client funds. And a crime like that is a big deal because attorneys are in positions of trust. And so those types of indiscretions are punished really, really hard. And I tend to agree with that. So anyway, he was an alcoholic and he drank up his client funds. They became a temptation for him. So he was incarcerated at the time, our state's only penitentiary, which is in Walla Walla, Washington. And and while he was there, he entered AA, and volunteer AA counselors would drive to Seattle once a week to participate in group sessions. And when he was released from prison, um, he came back and he founded Pioneer Human Services, and he started this company with a house that he purchased in Capitol Hill, downtown Seattle, and that house is here today. And now we've grown to 50 places. Um, but he knew that people needed to have a place to live when they exited incarceration, and that they needed a place to work. And he had a relationship with folks at the Boeing company, and he was able to get a Boeing contract. So we started with one house, one Boeing contract, and we've just grown tremendously, in the 55 years that we've been a company. I guess 57 now, 57 years.
So it sounds like the founder, Jack Dalton, he got the second chance. And that's
Yes.
really what you are trying to help people with. Does Pioneer operate only in Washington State?
Yes, we are only in Washington State. Some of our services people in Idaho access by driving to Spokane because uh, the border is very close, but other than that, it's all Washington.
It, it's a really cool model. And I saw that you were included in a PBS NewsHour story recently highlighting the billions of dollars spent on incarcerating people as compared to very small dollar amounts spent on reentry services. Can you talk
Yes.
a little bit about that?
I just think it's ridiculous. How much we spend in this country on incarceration is staggering. In our state, we spend almost $2 billion, and that's just for the prison system. I haven't even added up what we spend on all the jails. I probably should at some point. But standard thinking is that in any county, 60 to 70% of their budget is public safety related. So that's jail, police, prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, all of that. So that's a tremendous amount of money that we are not using to help people thrive, make goods, produce goods and services. We are punishing people and separating families, and it's disproportionately happening to, the poorest, darkest colored people of our society, and that's not a good way for us to be as a country.
Is this Does it require a mindset shift as a society to be less focused on the punishment and shift that toward how to help people?
Absolutely. I do. I think we have to believe that people can change, and we have to look at jails and prisons as the vehicle to help us do that. So, and I think that we have to just be, more forgiving. And I think that when politicians run for office and one of their platforms that they choose to run on is public safety, um, they they're trying to leverage the fear that people have, and they blow that out of proportion, and we've just now we have um, this institution of mistreating and warehousing people, and it's not good for us. Often tell folks, do not watch Law and Order, and people kind of laugh. And I used to be a huge Law and Order fan. My daughter and I would sit together Saturday mornings and we would watch Law and Order. She now wants to be an attorney, and they're really good storylines. But if you watch them, look at how they show the bad person. And really, you know, people commit crimes they disproportionately have witnessed trauma when they were young, um, and then they develop an outcast identity. They typically will drop out of school in the 8th grade, so they're not going to have attachment to the labor market. And then they haven't seen anybody who has had a good job by the legal labor market, so they feel they have to go this alternative route. Then they see violence. We call that an adverse childhood experience. So their ways of dealing with people and dealing with challenges involve force, because that is what they're accustomed to. And then they have to lie and cheat and steal to get ahead, and it just begets more and more negativity in their lives. And then when addiction comes into play, then your brain is altered by consistent use of drugs. We know this, right? We know what happens to the dopamine center in your brain, the pleasure center, that it just needs to be stimulated more and more. And those are very, very powerful drives. So we have crime from lack of opportunity, not doing well in school, um, being under the influence of drugs. And then for women, there is just, their choices, looking for love, did not maybe receive it at home, and all of a sudden they're in this criminal lifestyle. So there's many routes to, I would say, a life of crime, but most of those routes begin with an adverse childhood experience that's trauma related. And so if we can look at the bad people in those shows and look at them thinking, okay, what type of childhood, what experiences led to this? And if we could unpack those and help develop protective factors, people can begin to make better decisions so that they can, be a citizen in our society where honesty is a norm, and not stealing from people is a norm, and not hurting other people is a behavioral norm. And then we would be more like other Western countries when right around just a very smaller percentage of people are incarcerated, and they're the people that truly deserve to be incarcerated, as opposed to what we're doing here in the U.S.
These are very complex issues that cannot be properly addressed in a 30-minute TV show, that's for sure. I love the idea that having a faith that people can change. The work that you're doing at Pioneer Human Services it looks like daily proof of that. You're overseeing both for-profit businesses and social programs. What are some of the pieces and how do they fit together?
all the pieces at Pioneer is why I love Pioneer so much. What we do is really offer everything that a person needs to thrive. And you can enter Pioneer wherever you are, on your journey if you've been involved with the criminal legal system, and that we can help. So one of the ways I've been thinking about Pioneer recently is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Do you remember studying that when you were in school? Well, when we were in school, there were five needs, and this was motivational theory. I think today there are eight. But regardless, the bottom need is all about security, and then you move up the triangle. Well, what we do at Pioneer is we offer services at every level of need, so that the individual that we can serve can thrive and get to self-actualization. And their needs could be different. So we have some individuals that they don't even have anything at the bottom of the triangle. They don't have any safety, security, or food. And then we have some individuals that they may have had a skill. They may have gone to prison for tax evasion, so they just don't know how to present themselves to the working world in a way that they can secure employment. So they might just need a light touch from us, and then direction to an employer who would hire them. So wherever an individual is on that hierarchy of needs, we have a solution for them that's based on their particular need. And we're very, very proud of that. So on the enterprise side of Pioneer, we have businesses that people can work at. We have, and we call them all Pioneer Industries. That's the brand. But one business is manufacturing, and then another is construction. The manufacturing company, we do sophisticated machining that we are proud of, that most of you have probably used that are listening to this podcast. If you've ever flown on a 737 plane, Pioneer makes the escape hatch assemblies, the exit doors that are on that plane. We also make parts for the Dreamliner. We also make parts for SpaceX. Very sophisticated machining work that we do. And we have everything from entry-level employment all the way up to the general management of that organization. So really proud to be able to show the world that people that have formerly been incarcerated, they can enter the labor market and be just amazing employees. And we're proud to show that. And also, it helps because it supports the philanthropic side. Pioneer Industries is Pioneer Human Services' biggest donor. So, and we are very dependent on the money that they provide for us.
How does that work? I saw that Pioneer is a 501c3.
Mm-hmm.
You do get support from individuals and corporations, but Pioneer Industries is the biggest supporter?
They are the biggest supporter by far. My goal is to grow other philanthropic efforts so that we can serve more people and help more people. But yes, all the profits from Pioneer Industries, once we've decided how much we're going to reinvest every year with new machinery or training for staff or for growth, then the rest of the profits come to the organization, and we support the services with that money.
Are you serving about 10,000 people annually?
Yes, we do. That gives you a sense of the size and scope of Pioneer, and we serve people differently, kind of depending on where they are in that triangle. The way that we deliver services is that we're always in partnership with the communities that we reside in, because reentry is people reenter back into communities, and so we support communities by being a service provider, and local governments will contract with us to provide this type of service that they're looking for, what fits in with their community. So several of our communities, we provide jail diversion services to help them lower their jail population. Um, our offices and our facilities are a place to get people stabilization and other type of treatment services, to get them into housing, substance use disorder, residential services, to get homeless people that are um, committing misdemeanors off the street and not in jail. And we have very good results for that. We have drug and we call it substance use disorder treatment centers or residential treatment centers. It's to help people that have a drug problem. We have those in almost every region that we serve. We have outpatient services. In one area, we are an arm of the court. We offer drug court, we call that. It's a alternative again to a prison sentence. It's called felony drug diversion court. We have job training services, and then of course the big daddy is that we have 700 housing units across the state so that people have a place to live.
This is very diverse. You are obviously a very, very busy woman. I don't know. That's a lot of balls to be juggling. The for-profit businesses, which have multiple divisions, and then that Maslow's hierarchy of needs approach to serving people. That is a lot, from housing to substance abuse to training.
Well, that's because we have to serve people holistically. And so if you were in prison, let's say, and you had an untreated addiction, by the way, 80% of people that are incarcerated have untreated substance use disorder or mental health challenges. So if we just treat the substance use disorder, but we don't help you with housing, or we don't help you with job training, if you have to live under a bridge, how long are you going to stay in treatment? So we have to treat the person holistically. Now, in every county, Pioneer doesn't provide all those services. It really depends on the county and the community's personality, and then we serve what we're good at, and then we partner with other nonprofit providers if they're strong. So in every region, our service mix looks different, but the goal is the same: to not have people be put in jail because they have an addiction, and then to help people that are in prison reenter society and not recidivate, and to be able to thrive in life. And so that's how we help society, by preventing people from going to jail. And then if you are, then when you transition back home, you have the tools that you need to thrive and be successful and live a healthy and productive life.
Karen, you mentioned that you're serving people in Washington state. Do you think that this is a model that can be duplicated in other states? And should it be almost like a governmental entity that could be running all these same services to really help people, if that money was reinvested away from the incarceration and toward helping people?
It's a complicated answer, so I'm going to unpack it just a bit. And I'll start with government. Government and business is not a great combination. So I would not say that a government should ever operate businesses. I know that because I used to be in government. And the big reason why is just because of the revenue side of the picture. When you run a state agency, you receive permission to spend up to a certain amount to deliver on your mission, right? So your revenue, it's set. So as an agency director, what you're trying to do is maximize the value of the money that you receive and serve the people and serve your mission the best you can. So you're trying to take your resources, and the challenge then is because you always have more people that need services, then what you can provide is how to get the best value, the best bang for the dollars, so that you can achieve your mission. Business is not like that. I wish. And Andy, if you could go tell our customers to just give us money the first of the year, regardless of what we do, I would just, you know how easy my life would be. But that's just not how it works, right? At least not with our customers, right? We have to have, our sales fluctuate. We have to always worry about our competition and make sure that our products are meeting the customer's needs, right? That we're delivering value, that are, that the propositions that we have are meaningful. So you don't really have that. You don't have that type of pressure when you're running a state agency. Your pressure is all on. It's kind of the other end of it. It's hard. It's just hard differently. And so no, I don't think that government should run business. Different skill set. Both are needed, but just different. So I think in a way, if society had, if their hearts and minds were open, we wouldn't have to have pioneer industries, because every company would be willing to hire people with a felony conviction. It wouldn't be such a, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't see the numbers of unemployment that you see, right? So if a person has a conviction, then they, like the unemployment rate for people with a conviction today is about 30%. So almost any negative economic indicator that you have, or any, you have to multiply it by 5, and then that's how you'll know the impact on people with a conviction or on African Americans, right? So we wouldn't have to have pioneer industries if society was more open. We wouldn't have to have our 700 housing units if other landlords were willing to rent to people with a felony conviction. So we are here by necessity. So what I believe government should provide is reentry services to every single person, and that instead of putting people in jail because they are participating in misdemeanor activity related to their substance use disorder, they should go right to treatment. And we should be willing to pay for that, and not pay for it for 2 weeks, but pay for it for 2 years. Because addiction it's a very treatable disease that follows a disease path, but it's a disease that takes time to get to recovery. So I'll stop, because I could go on for 2 days.
Karen, I think I saw the number that 69% of the enterprise workforce has a conviction history and or is in recovery.
Yes.
You have the benefit of knowing that you're hiring individuals who are also being supported by all your social programs.
Yes.
I'm just curious, like, it's difficult to tell a business you have to have an open mind. You've got to hire people who have this black mark on their record, but you do have like the social programs to help them too. You need both, right?
We do. The social programs come first. So you don't hire someone at, especially a company like Pioneer Industries. I mean, people have to compete to work there. Okay. So, but once they're stable, their lives are stable, and then they've received training, then they can apply and win the job at Pioneer Industries. Now, they win the jobs because we put so much into them by making sure that when they're clients of ours, they have housing, they have, they've worked on their employment barriers, they're stable, they're in recovery, they've learned how to behave on the job force, they're honest, they're not using drugs. and they've been through apprenticeship type of exposure to manufacturing work. So after all of that, then that person's able to compete. And more often than not, they compete better than I'll call civilians. So the enterprise side, all of that kind of comes after the social services have been supporting the individual. I think we might have two locations where we have workforce housing, but everything else is really more in the stage of um, when people are most vulnerable when they're coming out of incarceration.
Tell us more about the people that you serve and what challenges they're facing, because you mentioned the higher unemployment rate. Why is housing why does housing play such a vital role in a successful reentry?
Well, sadly, Andy, landlords discriminate, and I don't know if you rent, you rent your home or you own your home, but if you rent your home, you had to fill out an application, and on that application, it probably said, "Have you ever had a felony conviction?" And once you check that box, landlords won't rent to you. It's as simple as that. And then if you don't check the box, they'll run your application through credit check, and then the record will come up anyway. So, so housing is important because if you don't have a place to live, you don't have a base of operations, you're not going to be able to show up to work every day on time and to be a good employee because you're going to be moving, sleeping on couches from night to night to night, or you'll be sleeping in your car. That's just not sleeping in your car doesn't put you in position to come to Pioneer and make aerospace parts every day. The work is just too demanding and it's too exacting. Our quality standards are 99.999. So if you don't read your blueprint correctly because you're tired, and we pick that, and then we catch that on the QA line, then we can't have that. So a person can't do well without the stability of a home.
So it sounds like a pretty complex needing to support different people's needs because they have different problems. Sometimes it's substance abuse, sometimes it's trauma at a young age. There are many different things that need to be worked through. But even with all those differences, then it sounds like there are very consistent challenges. I mean, what you described sounds like a pretty certain path towards being homeless because you can't rent a place. And then I know that wages are lower. It's just harder to find a job. What are some of the financial burdens that justice-involved people face?
Justice-involved people have many more financial burdens than you or I have, and I just think that's sad. On average, a person will have legal and financial obligations depending on their sentence. They'll have child support and back child support. Many people that are incarcerated have children, and they may have warrants that were issued, then they didn't appear because they were incarcerated. And so if you don't manage that, they'll have a failure to appear, which is a fine. And then their insurance, they have to pay the max for car insurance. And so if they can't afford that and they drive without insurance, they'll get a ticket, which is another fine. So a lot of the individuals that we serve just get caught up in fines and interests and interest, and all that they can pay off is just the bare minimum, which is the interest. So their underlying fine never goes away. So it's quite sad. I think the average financial obligation from our most recent job training class was on the order of $50,000. These are people that, their first job is going to be, a little bit above minimum wage, maybe, $18 an hour or something like that, $17 an hour. And 50,000, that's a big debt for me, right? That was more than my student loans when I went to school. That's how much my student loans were. So, yeah, it's a lot.
That's a big wall to climb when you have higher debt and lower wages.
Mm-hmm.
How do you reconcile that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's very difficult. So, because of that, advocacy has become a bigger and bigger arm of what Pioneer does. And we're really working hard right now on what we call housing justice so that it's easier for um, our clients to be able to acquire housing so that they can live. You know, we believe that when your sentence is done, your sentence is done. And when you throw up barriers like, I'm not going to hire that person or I'm not going to rent to that person because they have a record, you're in essence extending the judge's punishment. That's not what the judge intended. The judge, he or she intended that, hey, 3 years is 3 years or 3 years and this fine. But they didn't intend lifelong impacts. They didn't. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right that society does that to people.
Now, we know that recovery can be a bumpy road. It's not easy, and people often go through treatment multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very impressive seeing your organization's unwavering faith that people
Mm-hmm.
can start over when they're given the opportunity. It's supported, I think, by the data. I looked at Pioneer's annual report, and the results are quantitative and impressive. Can you talk a little bit about successful outcomes?
Yes, we're really proud of our data, and I will talk about two different types of programs. One is a jail diversion program, and then another is an employment program. Our jail diversion, I'll start with that.
And what does that mean? Jail diversion?
Jail diversion is when police or a police and a social worker, instead of taking either a homeless youth or someone who maybe broke in to jail for their misdemeanor, they'll bring him to a diversion center. And we've been very successful. So our diversion center serves people that are homeless, and 3 months prior, none of them had housing, and after 3 months after their 2-week stay at our diversion center, 50% had housing. 82% had gone to treatment. And that's what you want, right? You want people to not be homeless and you want to get people in treatment. So that's a very, very, it's just a great outcome for that stage of where the person is on their hierarchy of needs. For our employment programs, which kind of come in at a higher level, our results are just as good. We have a job training program called Roadmap to Success, and that program has a recidivism rate of less than 4%, which I think is important to everyone. And then it has, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think that the employment rate was 80% coming out of that program, within 30 days. So again, really strong program, but it shouldn't be surprising. It shouldn't be surprising. When you provide people the tools that they need to be successful, people can be successful.
That's encouraging to hear, because I think that oftentimes you look at the statistics for people who go to jail and then they get out and they go back. It's easy for both those who are in the criminal justice system, which I understand you don't really like that phrase, but I think for them, because they're in it, as well as those who are outside of it, it's very easy to lose hope, to be hopeless, to feel hopeless, because as we discussed, the obstacles are so high as far as opportunities go. But you're right. You're correct as CEO with your numbers. I saw that 80% secured employment. One number that I was very impressed with is 96% had no new arrests.
That's right. I gave you the opposite, which was the
Yes, you did.
recidivism. But yes, 96% no new arrests. We are very, very proud of that number. Very proud of that number.
So I think proof that there is hope, that people can recover, but it does require capital. It requires money to create supportive programs for training and support, and then it can have a successful impact.
Yes, it does require money, and I don't know why that would surprise people. Of course that would require money for the people that we want to work with, the clients that we serve. If they're difficult to serve, you want a professional. Social workers get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree so that they can do this work and be in the helping profession. Why wouldn't we want to pay them equivalent to those degrees?
Your website has like many success stories
Yes.
with photos of people, which is really, really nice to see. I guess data-wise, male, female, race, what do the people that you serve look like?
I think in King County, which is where Seattle is, 30% of the people we serve are Black, 50% are people of color, people that we serve. In our housing units, I think that at least 50% are veterans that are justice involved. Very high percentage of veterans. I think we all know why veterans would struggle. So in particular, they're big users of our housing programs. So we're really, proud that we are meeting people where they are and that we're serving some of the folks that others, aren't that comfortable serving in our society. More men than women, obviously.
Karen, all these success stories, how does that make you feel as CEO of this organization?
Oh, that we could serve more. I don't think my goal is that our country has the same incarceration rate as Sweden. And that every single person that is coming out of incarceration gets the services that they need to be successful in life. And that we can help the police and partner with the justice system to keep people out of jail because they have substance use disorder or behavioral health disorder. If we do those things,
get to the root of the problem.
If we do those things, then our jail system can really focus on the small percentage of people that is designed to manage. But we can't throw people in prison because we don't like how they look, we don't like how they act, and we're not comfortable with their behavioral health disorder, right? So, so jail is not a panacea for society's ills. People that don't do well in school drop out by the 8th grade, then they don't have any way to support themselves, then they start to resort to, gang-like activity. So, if we can just manage and address all those issues differently, then we'll look more like the Western country that we are. And we'll be able to, help our nation to, deliver on the promises of, our founding documents, our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. So, it's we know that we're changing people one at a time, and we want to change more. All those beautiful faces that you see in those pictures, they're real people. And many of them actually, in their spare time, they lead AA groups, they mentor others, they want to give back, they vote. It's just a beautiful thing to see. They want to be good parents, and we want that for everyone.
It's a beautiful message.
Hmm.
Karen, because many of the people you serve, they're directly impacted, can you talk a little bit about the significant social movement to confront racial injustice and cases of police brutality in our country?
We really try to be sensitive of the experiences of the people that we serve. Um, I was thinking about that today. Um, I'm not sure when this podcast will air, but Derek Chauvin was convicted yesterday of murder. And a lot of companies are talking about how committed they are to the Black Lives movement. Um, and I'm hesitant to write something because of privilege. Many of the employees in my company may have experienced violence, um, during the arrest process. Maybe it was in the initial restraint phase. Maybe it was during the strip search. Maybe it was during the incarceration. There are just so many opportunities for dehumanizing behavior. I wasn't sure that I could treat the topic with respect, um, because I've never been arrested. So, and I think that there's unspoken trauma that many of our clients have suffered. So, I'm hoping that our country can really heal. If you look at George Floyd's life, he's exactly the type of person that Pioneer serves. Just exactly. Um, he graduated from high school. He went to college. He had a football scholarship. He dropped out of college. He went back home, started using drugs, got caught up in drugs and that lifestyle. And then he was incarcerated for minor offenses for increasing lengths of time. And all those incarcerations were related to controlled substances. And then he tried to get out of that lifestyle, and then he finally moved from Texas. But those are all services that we offer. We offer a place to live. We offer classes that help change thinking. We offer substance use disorder. We offer job skills training. I mean, had he had all of those things, his life trajectory would have been different. He wouldn't have had to do it on his own. So, you know, uh, so I think more support of Pioneer so that we can support more people here in Washington State, and more support of organizations in every major city that offer services like Pioneer is what we need in this country. We have a quiz on our website, pioneerhumanservices.org/quiz, that if you just go there and take it, you'll learn things about what happens to people and things about incarceration that you probably don't know. But so my hope is that George Floyd's death and murder um, will help us as a society get better.
Yeah, we hope so. You have a very unique vantage point, I think, because you get to witness so many people, their lives changing.
Hmm.
I like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
For Pioneer,
Yeah, for you and for Pioneer. Yeah, it can be any.
I would say it starts with every person that we serve, they have a plan of what they want in their life. And when they achieve their life plan, that makes us happy. Now, how we boil that down to numbers, we're like everyone else. We're still going to work on, what are our ultimate outcome metrics. We certainly can talk about recidivism, and we can talk about how many people acquired housing. We can look at wages, but the ultimate metric is did every person we serve achieve their life plan after they, you know, interacted with our organization? And I know that many people have. Many people have. If you look at, just if you look at our employees, the people that lead our company, many of them have been involved in the justice system, or they've been or they've had an addiction. So that's our ultimate metric. That's our ultimate metric.
How many employees does Pioneer have?
We have about 900 employees right now. We're getting ready to add some new programs, so that number is going to go up a little bit. So it's roughly 900.
But it's so encouraging to know that helping people does work.
Yes, absolutely. Helping people work, and people can change. That's if any listener thinks that people can't change, I will tell you they're wrong. Come to our website, look at our life stories, look at our YouTube videos. You will just, I always tell people, if they don't touch your heart's made of stone. So many of our graduates have gone from being victims, dropping out of school in the 8th grade, to being grandparents, buying a home, voting, vacations every year. We just had one couple got married. They both worked for us, and they went to Hawaii, and they were not cliff diving, but they were doing like Slide for Life and skydiving. I mean, it's just whatever their life plan is. And a lot of times that involves grandchildren, but it's just a beautiful thing to see when you see a life changing in front of you.
This may be a hard question. Maybe it's like asking, which is your favorite child? But do you have somebody that is like a favorite success story that just touches your heart in a way that stands out?
That's like asking who's your favorite child. That is. So I can tell you my most recent story because it was yesterday. I think that's probably the best way to do it, is who did you just talk to most recently? I talked to one of our employees, and she worked for Pioneer Industries, and she works on the shop floor, and she works in our water jet area. And she was telling me, so she's a water jet technician, which is a pretty high paying, it's a well paying position. And she told me she had just finished her AA in counseling, and she was going for her bachelor's. And as much as she loved Pioneer Industries, she wanted to get her degree, and she wanted to counsel people. So I think she's my favorite story because she was yesterday. But I mean, there's almost too many stories to mention, right?
I would imagine out of 10,000 each year.
I mean, yeah, and then there's other people that we are associated with. We, in Washington, we have a legislator who was formerly incarcerated, Representative Tara Simmons, right? And I remember when she was a law student at Seattle University. So, yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see a life unfold.
Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you for sharing your story, and as well as the Pioneer Human Services story. Can you tell the Inspired Money listener where to follow you and find out more?
Absolutely. First, go to our website, so pioneerhumanservices.org, and take the mass incarceration quiz. So that's /quiz, and learn about it. Follow us, donate it. We also have social media. You can follow my social media. I try to, on my LinkedIn page, I often will put stories or news of the day, just something to keep us all focused on the issue at hand. So follow our social media, go to our website.
Yeah, quick shout out to Karen's LinkedIn page, because I did take a look, and if you see her network of connections, you see the people that she's helped.
Yes.
And you also see some of the obstacles that they're facing in real life. But the support that they're also getting in the comments is really encouraging. So
Yes.
Thanks so much, Karen.
Thanks, Andy.
So what was your favorite Inspired Money moment? I don't know how to change the mindset of our nation or of our society, but I love the idea of focusing less on punishment and allocating more dollars to rehabilitation. The work that Pioneer Human Services is doing is proof that people can change if provided opportunities and support. Visit Pioneer's website at pioneerhumanservices.org to see the success stories of the people they serve. I'm sure that Pioneer would appreciate your help. If you had a different favorite Inspired Money moment, please let me know by posting a comment below. And please hit like right now if you enjoyed this interview. I appreciate you for watching to the end. I want to send you this Inspired Money sticker. Go to inspiredmoney.fm/Andy, send me your name and address, and I'll put one of these in the mail for you. Thank you so much for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that is where the magic happens.